Good evening, everyone. I'll call to order the regular Board of Trustees for March 14th, 2023. Will you please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Clerk, will you call the roll, please?
Mayor Korsbeck.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Grace.
Here.
Trustee Hardy.
Yes.
Trustee Murphy.
Yes.
Trustee Ayers. Trustee Butler.
Here.
Trustee Ayers and Trustee Sorcelli are not present.
Okay, thank you very much. Next on our agenda is citizen participation. This is a chance for anyone in the audience tonight to speak to something that is not on tonight's agenda. We'll have time on tonight's agenda for everything but our executive session. So we do have Kelly McCauley signed up.
Me.
Welcome. If you could come over here to the podium and state your name and address again, please.
Sure. Kelly McCauley, 227 North 2nd Street, Trailer 4.
Okay.
Yes, I am in the trailer park. I moved here 2 years ago almost, brought in a brand new trailer. 2nd Street is a nightmare. I keep hearing it's going to be fixed next year. I don't know if you guys can bump it up on the agenda. It's a shame that on the Berthoud Facebook page, people are saying not nice things about how horrible the trailer park is and why don't the town make the trailer park fix it up? And I don't believe 2nd Street is, the trailer park, it's the town's property and it's just a nightmare. And I would hope everyone can maybe send someone down there and maybe make it get fixed quicker or something or do something. That park has been there from my understanding, 60s or 70s. It is one of your oldest neighborhoods. It would be considered, I don't know, it's not historic because it's not 1800, but it's old. It's older than all these new houses. It's the only affordable housing in this area. And we should keep it nice for people because they're your workers, that help the town maintain things or the community. So please keep that in mind and possibly do something to help us out because it is really bad. And like I said, people are saying, ooh, it's a trailer park. We have a bad enough name that it's a trailer park. People look down on us, and it's just not fair to all of us. And the second thing is the Ludlow Farms I just saw about. Please watch the writing of what your the guy who or girl who is going to build it up. I lived in Superior and I've seen what happened to what a lot of the builders did. Read the fine print because we had a builder that was doing all this stuff and did nothing and came to a town meeting, stood up and said, I don't have to do anything. Read your contract better. So then the town had to pay for all the things this gentleman said they were gonna do, and he might pay for it in 20 years. So really, please, really think about open space, the water. Water in Colorado is a nightmare. It's, from what I read on Ludlow Farms or any of the new communities being built around here, it's gonna take a lot of water, it's a lot of people, infrastructure. Look at the fire, what happened in Louisville and Superior. My sister lived there. She was ready to go because she's prepped. Took her an hour to go, not even a mile. It took friends an hour and a half to go a mile. And they have bigger infrastructure than we have here. So please keep that in mind because we have one lane in and out of town. And if there is a fire, we have so many people now and we're building much bigger. So please keep that in mind when you are looking into the development for any project that's in here. And also, please invest in open space. Superior did not.
Ms. McCauley, we're past our 3 minutes here.
Okay,
but
that was it. But thank you. Lovely to meet everyone. Thank you for your service. I appreciate it.
And we'll keep an eye on that 2nd Street
Please
for you.
do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you know off the top of your head right now what North 2nd Street is scheduled for?
I don't know what it's scheduled for. I know where it's being evaluated. It's been evaluated with staff. I just don't know where it's at.
Okay.
Mayor Korsbeck, if I could interject,
Yeah.
I had some discussions with Administrator Kirk earlier this spring regarding 2nd Street due to some comments from the community. It was slated in our prior study, our 5-year plan, that it is is slated for 2024, and my understanding is they slated at least part of it. I had some discussions with him, and I think the intent is to fully do Second Street as far as it's the town's responsibility to fully build that out in 24.
And that, do you know if that's all the way from, like, the manufacturing from Bunyan
From Mountain
Mountain
all the
over
way down.
north? Okay, or south?
I think that's the intent, that we kind of discussed while we're there. I don't see an issue with that. I don't know if staff has a reason to bump it forward from 24 as we kind of initially planned or not.
Yeah, that's why it's being evaluated a little bit. I know there was some gutter and drainage issues they were working through. They have to do some different things with getting the water, to drain properly. There's not gutters through there, or proper storm drain. So that's what they're working through, but it sounds like that makes sense what you're saying. It got teed up a little quicker, so.
Or at least maybe you get some patch in there.
I think we're all in agreement that it definitely needs some attention on it.
Yep.
And in fact, the lady from the planning commission, Melissa, just texted me the exact same thing, so I think a lot of people are interested and concerned by that street, so thank you for speaking on that.
Thank you.
We'll keep an eye on it. Okay, is there anyone else that did not sign up, wishes to speak? All right, I'll move on now from citizen participation to consent. Would any of the trustees like anything removed from consent tonight? Otherwise, is there a motion to approve consent?
Can I
Yeah.
remove the micro transit pilot program?
Sure. Is there a motion to approve consent minus the congressionally directed spending request for microtransit pilot project?
Yeah, second.
All right, I'll say, well, Mayor Pro Tem has made the motion. Is there a second?
You made the motion, I seconded your.
I guess I'm
Moved
making a
it.
motion. Okay. I'll move on that. Mayor Pro Tem has seconded. Is there any discussion on this? Clerk, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Trustee Hardy,
Yes.
trustee Murphy,
Yes.
trustee Butler,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Grace.
Yes.
Mayor Karsbeck.
Yes. Okay, consent is approved. Items removed from consent will be considered next. So we have the congressionally directed spending request for microtransit pilot project. Trustee Murphy, or Trustee Butler?
So my question with that to staff, if you're familiar with, that is the board recently reviewed these options. And so this we're submitting for funding based on the full turnkey program option. When we submit for this, are we committing to the full turnkey, or are we just trying to see if we can get the funding to subsidize 80% of it?
Brian's here, the assistant to the town administrator. He's been working with Chris, and I could answer that, but he's been working with him on this, and maybe he'd give you more accurate.
That's my only question, is I just didn't know
Good one,
when we
thanks.
apply for this, we're committed to the full turnkey, so we were looking at different options and different costs.
So this really is just approving a letter of support to apply for the grant. But then yes, it would be to apply for the 80%, then we would be paying the rest of it, so.
So as a board, we're not approving the full turnkey.
Correct. You would just be approving the letter to submit to apply for it to go for the full turnkey.
Okay.
Well, effectively, we are then, right? This resolution is saying we support this, right?
Essentially, yeah. So if we were awarded it.
If we were awarded, we'd go ahead.
Yeah, we are.
But if we were not awarded it, then we wouldn't be on the hook for anything?
Correct.
That's what I was getting at. Okay.
Yes, it's just for 2 opportunities to get that 80% covered to go towards.
But I think it's a great option we're pursuing,
Yeah,
and hopefully it works out.
Mhm.
Yep, makes a lot of sense.
I think it's good. Thank you for taking advantage of those.
Okay, that's all I have.
Awesome. All right. Would you like to move to approve that?
Sure, I'd like to make a motion to approve on the consent agenda, item F, the congressionally directed spending request for the microtransit pilot program.
Second?
Okay, Trustee Butler has moved on item F. Trustee Murphy has seconded.
Yes.
Clerk, may I have a roll call vote, please?
Trustee Hardy,
Yes.
trustee Murphy,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Grace.
Yes.
Trustee Butler,
Yes.
Mayor Karsbeck.
Yes. Okay, consent has been approved. Move on now to a data transparency project, and we have our district attorney in here tonight, Gordon McLaughlin. Welcome. Thank you for coming all the way out.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. Good evening, Mr. Mayor. Good evening to the rest of the trustees. Very long story short, we've been trying to get out to all of our sort of local boards and councils and make sure that everyone in Larimer County knows what we're up to and can hold us accountable and that we're transparent to everyone. I think historically, the DA's office has presented information to the Board of County Commissioners, and that's sort of it. But of course, we have a lot of towns and communities in Larimer County and Jackson County as well that we want to be accountable to and really share what we're doing and make sure that we're getting input from everyone. And of course, a great place to start with what the local feelings are and what input is needed is the councils and the boards. So certainly if folks have questions and so forth or suggestions or insight for me tonight, I'm certainly happy to have this conversation both ways. Can I, perfect, thank you, whoever did that.
It's the wizard behind the curtain.
There we go. So this is just, we're the 8th Judicial District, which a lot of people don't know. We're not just Larimer County. Of course, Jackson County population-wise is very small, so most of our work is here in Larimer. I just did a little bit of rough math and Berthoud is about 3% of the population. That sounds small, but of course, we have a lot of different towns and communities, and so we're really, again, this is part of our outreach efforts to make sure we're really engaging and recognizing all those different communities and the different needs. We are putting more and more on our website, so when folks, and again, I know there's not only people in the audience here, but of course folks watch y'all online on these meetings, we are putting more and more on our website every day to try to make sure that folks can really find out about what we're doing, so I encourage folks to check that out. And we're also now, I started a Facebook and Twitter for the office where we try to, again, describe what we're doing, what our philosophies are, updates on cases, sentences, that type of thing. This is just our mission and vision. I'll just read the vision quickly. That's to protect and serve Larimer and Jackson counties while creating a stronger community where the application of criminal justice is more equitable and no longer at odds with social justice. So my mission as DA is, of course, to keep us safe. That's my first and foremost goal. But the way we do that is really can be done in a lot of different manners. And so our goal is to make sure that we are treating cases appropriately, that we're giving folks with low-level contact with the criminal justice system chances to rehabilitate, to get access to resources that are going to lower their likelihood to come into contact with the criminal justice system, again, lower the recidivism rate, and keep the community safe in that manner. This is a case roadmap. If I went through all of this, we would be here till midnight, so I'm not going to do that. But this is just to sort of show how expansive our efforts are. We might have a case for 6 months, we might have a case for 24 months. If we're talking about a serious case like a sex assault, a homicide, those usually take about 24 months to get through the criminal justice system with the amount of hearings we have, the rights defendants have, the complexity of those cases from both sides. So we really do a lot of work. We make the decisions right at the get-go and what we're going to charge, if we're going to charge. Those are our decisions, and then all the way through hearings, trial, appellate process. Our office handles all of that. We handle essentially all of the crime in Larimer County. There's of course some very low-level municipal stuff that municipal courts handle, but that is the sort of lowest of the low. There's also some sort of complex interstate stuff that maybe the U.S. Attorney will take. Other than that, we are taking, essentially 98% of the crime that's occurring in Larimer County, everything from a careless driving ticket to a homicide.
Real quick, what is that T&T at the bottom? Revocation or T&T?
T&T is a terminate and transfer. So if someone gets sentenced to the Community Corrections Program, which a lot of people know is the halfway house, that means that's essentially a sentence so long as you are complying with the Community Corrections Program. If you don't comply with the Community Corrections Program, that reverts to a Department of Corrections sentence. In our vernacular, we call that a terminate and transfer.
Thank you. Okay.
I should probably update those.
No, that's fine.
That's not clear. We're so used to talking in acronyms, in our own sectors. This is a graph that's actually on our data transparency website that I'll get into in a second here. But this just shows the scope of what we're doing. This is Larimer, it's 8th Judicial District wide, again, which is mainly Larimer County. This is our cases filed aggregated on a quarterly basis. So essentially this adds up to the fact that we're filing about 12,000 cases a year. People hear that number and they're sort of shocked. They say, is this not a safe community? No, this is a great community. I am thrilled and proud to be part of this community. But there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes. You as trustees, of course, hear about some of that. But there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes, whether we're talking about misdemeanors like DUI or domestic violence, whether we're talking about felonies like serious assaults and sexual assaults. Like every community across Colorado, across the country, we deal with just a lot of those things that don't get reported, and there's a lot of work that goes into those. This shows that felonies and misdemeanors are both down a little bit since COVID. COVID threw our criminal justice system and really all of society for a loop in some strange ways that I won't try to dig into in our brief time here together tonight, but cases are still a little bit down overall. These are a couple of things we've been working on just to highlight. I started an adult diversion program at the end of 2021. So last year was the first year that was fully up and running. Diversion means essentially what it sounds like. We're diverting people from the criminal justice system. So instead of the traditional route of a conviction and probation, we're getting them access to resources, and hopefully they are completing that, and we're then dismissing the case. That means they will not have those lifetime consequences of a conviction that can impact work, student loans, housing, etc. But they got those resources, we addressed the underlying problem, and usually, almost always, we did so much, much quicker than if they went through that traditional process that can take a long time. And so it saved sort of resources as a whole, not just in our office, but in the judiciary and other places. That had a 91% success rate last year with almost 400 people in it. We created a complex case prosecutor position that's focused on a few things. One of the biggest, though, is the fentanyl epidemic. I worked with the legislature last year to create a new crime called distribution of fentanyl causing death, which means that we can hold those that sold fentanyl to someone that killed a member of our community, and we can hold them accountable at a higher level, essentially at a homicide level of a crime, instead of just a normal distribution. So that's really allowing us to go after the worst actors. My philosophy on narcotics is that we need to treat users as users. That is much more of a behavioral health issue, but the folks that are poisoning folks in our community, we need to hold them accountable. So far in the whole state of Colorado, since that law went into effect July 1, only 5 of those distribution causing death cases have been filed because they are so complex and resource intensive. We have filed 2 here in Larimer County, so we're responsible for 40% statewide. That is not because we have 40% of the fentanyl deaths. We certainly do not. We're in line with other counties. It's affecting everyone, but we've really put the resources into that, along with our law enforcement partners, the Sheriff's Office, the Drug Task Force, and others. We have a competency court docket that we again started with the courts and the Public Defender's Office that is essentially trying to treat those with mental health problems, serious mental health problems humanely, get them out of custody when possible and safe, get them to resources, and make sure those cases are handled efficiently. It has become a state and nationwide model, and so we're very proud of that, and it's saving a lot of resources. Our state hospital in Colorado, in Pueblo, is wildly backed up. It takes years sometimes to get evaluations down there. So when we want to solve these problems, we have to do them at a local level, and we've been able to do that with the competency court. We rebooted the Northern Colorado Economic Crime Task Force, which had been dormant for quite a few years, in 2021. That's seen some really great results so far. We got about a $350,000 in restitution from a credit card skimming operation from a food truck in Loveland. That might have been at the end of 2021. And just a few weeks ago, we got $100,000 in restitution through that unit through a case where someone had stolen funds from the Poudre library system. I don't think that's the library system here, but that's taxpayer dollars and for most folks in Fort Collins that were stolen, we were able to retrieve. We did a large update to our critical incident response team protocol. That's our officer-involved shooting protocol, so that more things are being reported to the DA's office. We can review those, make sure they're reviewed unbiasedly and independently, and the community can have trust in what law enforcement's doing and what the DA's office is doing. We also got a courtroom facility dog. We have a really robust victim services unit. A lot of folks don't know that part of what we do, part of our mission is to serve and support victims. So we have terrific victim advocates that get folks through really hard and traumatic times. But when we're talking about child victims, when we're talking about sex assault victims, it doesn't matter how much we support them, it will be difficult. It's a difficult process. They might have to face their accuser in court. We are prepping folks for trial. Folks, of course, inherently are retelling their stories when they're in contact with us. There is no way to make that easy, but we try to make it as painless as possible. And so the courtroom facility dog, he's a professionally trained dog for 2 years out in California, and he is one more element that can help sort of ground people, especially when we're talking about child victims, and he's been really successful so far. That leads me to our data transparency project. We launched this in September of 2022. it is among the most data being shared of any DA's office in the country. So there are a couple big cities around the country that of course have infinite resources and share a little bit more. But other than them, this is as transparent as it comes. We paired with 7 other judicial districts around Colorado in this project. We worked for a full year really hard in making sure we were sharing meaningful data and that we were collecting good data so that what we were sharing is accurate. And this was not just data that we decided to share, this was just data we decided to start collecting. So we had never seen this data before ourselves, so it's already been a real boon for us using data-driven decision-making in what we're doing. So most of those stats were things that no one at the DA's office had ever known before or been able to use. It is all on our public website. If folks Google us, just Larimer DA's office, our website pops up. And then it's on the statistics and tracking page. And we have about 60 different metrics that we're sharing up there. Everything from sentencing outcomes to charging decisions to disparities in race and ethnicity and on and on. And so folks can really find out a lot about what we're doing, the scope of what we're doing, and hold us accountable in that way. So I encourage folks to visit that website. Just to share a couple quick graphs from that website. It's a little bit harder, so the website just shows 8th Judicial District data. Behind the scenes, we're able to drill down a little bit more and filter by agency. That's of course a little bit difficult for Berthoud because y'all are patrolled by the Sheriff's Office. But I did pull the Sheriff's data that are filed with us so that you could see that. So this is the data we have from the Larimer County Sheriff's Office that of course includes Berthoud. It shows similar data to what I showed you a couple slides ago, so that's the same data but filtered down. That misdemeanors may be down a shade, felonies may be down a shade, but really they're pretty consistent with about, again, this is quarterly, so about 200 felonies a quarter.
So can I ask a question? So this is pretty incredible if our population is kind of booming, but it's staying flat?
Yes, and in fact, I'll skip to this next slide because that sort of highlights it. So this is violent crime, which of course everyone thinks, okay, well the crime rate's the same, what about the serious crime, the violent crime? This is 8th Judicial District-wide violent crime, again quarterly. This shows essentially a flat violent crime rate. Our data set goes back to the beginning of 2017, and so over that course of time, which is now about 5.5 years, it shows flat violent crime for a booming population. So we're pretty proud of that. I think I pulled, so this is the sheriff's filings with us about violent crime. Again, not Berthoud specific, of course, but including Berthoud. And there's more spikes in this only because it's a smaller sample size, right? It doesn't include all our other large departments. So I wouldn't read too much into the spikes. But again, I think this shows relatively flat violent crime for about 5.5 years. A couple just notable Berthoud events that I thought folks might want updates on. They both involved our critical incident response team. The first was a case with a gentleman, Eric Locker. He had 2 cases I put there. This was a shooting that occurred over on 2nd and Welch in July of 2021. Again, it takes an unfortunate long time for these cases to get through our system. In this particular case, defense counsel asked for several trial continuances. It ended up with a plea that the deputies involved were very supportive of, which was 18 years in the Department of Corrections. To refresh folks' recollection, this was a DUI stop in downtown Berthoud where the defendant shot out the window of the car. It was a difficult case because the casing was never found, and so there was a dispute about in which direction he shot. Nevertheless, in my opinion, he certainly put 4 deputies' lives at risk, as well as other community members in downtown Berthoud at risk. It was right near the skate park. It was late at night, but there were people out and about, cars out and about, and it was a very, very dangerous situation. So we were glad we could get a pretty significant sentence and get accountability on that case. Another case, which is sort of a little bit Berthoud tangential, but just to show the nature of some of the stuff going on, we had another critical incident response investigation that began at the Loves in Berthoud that the Sheriff's Office was patrolling, technically Weld County, so outside of my jurisdiction, but within all years jurisdiction. And that suspect ended up fleeing north. The stop was in Windsor, not in Berthoud. And again, we had a citizen who pulled a rifle and was loading a large capacity magazine into that rifle while looking, dead at deputies who were trying to stop him. Deputies ended up firing. In both of these cases, we did very thorough, very extensive investigations and found that all the deputies that fired in both these cases were justified. Folks can find those full letters on our website. They are incredibly detailed and try to answer every question that folks may have about those. Another popular question I get is auto theft rate. Auto theft is definitely getting a lot of attention in Colorado. Our statewide rate is high, there's no question about that. Our Larimer County rate is not. And so that's something that folks should be aware of. This was not from our data dashboard. This is a study out of a group in Denver called the Common Sense Institute. But you can see there, Adams County, the rate per 100,000 residents is 216. In Larimer, ours is 16.5. So we're essentially the lowest rate in the entire Front Range. So I think we're doing very well on that. I'm also working on some legislation down at the Capitol this legislative session that is going to sort of right-size the penalties for auto theft. One of the problems right now is that theft of a $1,000 vehicle is a misdemeanor. Theft of a $30,000 vehicle is a felony. That's not fair to folks. Realistically, the person with a $1,000 car is going to be a lot more put out if their car gets stolen. The person with a $30,000 car, their insurance probably covers a rental. Their spouse has a car. They can pay for an Uber. The person with a $1,000 car has no other options. They can't get to work. They can't drop their kids off. They lose that car. So we're making sure that all those are felonies. So we're treating folks equitably across the pay scale. We also, and this was an idea that came out of our office here in the 8th Judicial District, changing the standard of which we can prosecute those. Right now, the law says you have to know the car was stolen. That's surprisingly hard to prove because folks pass these cars around. So our suggestion was to change the standard to know or reasonably should have known. That's sort of a little nuancy legal term, but we do think it's going to give us a greater ability to prosecute some of these auto theft cases and hold folks accountable. If there's a bunch of meth equipment in the back seat and the ignition's punched, you reasonably should have known that car was stolen, and so we want to make sure we're holding those folks accountable as well. And I'm probably near my time here. I'll just leave on this slide, which just has some of our contact information on it. I encourage folks, the trustees, other folks in the Berthoud community to reach out to us. We want to engage with the community. If folks have things that would be helpful for us to be at, groups that want to hear from us, want to hear from our victim services department, for instance, or want to hear what we're doing on fentanyl, we're happy to present that information, and we're happy to hear feedback from the community too. So that's all I have, and I'm happy to take questions.
Thank you very much, trustees.
Well, I want to thank you for coming in. That was really informative, especially on the key issues, I think a lot of us have heard from. Is there anything from our perspective that we can do to help you do your job in your office?
The communication, really. Again, and it's not unique to Berthoud, but there's never really been communication between the DA's office and the boards and the councils. Again, you're on the ground here in Berthoud, of course, way more than I could ever be. And so, when you hear about issues, definitely let us know, because you all are a great resource to sort of let us know what's going on. Again, as I said, our population in 8th Judicial District is 370,000. So I couldn't talk to everyone in Berthoud as much as y'all do, no matter how hard I tried. So definitely communication, I want folks to know those lines are open and to use them.
Thanks.
So honestly, this is incredibly impressive. I've actually been playing around on your dashboard while you've been talking.
Super.
It's really good stuff. Really impressive to see recidivism rate around 16 to 17%. It's actually really good, all things considered. I mean, most of this stuff is pretty flat across the board, which is also good to know. Kind of scratches the itch because I did criminal justice as an undergrad. So a lot of this is like, oh yeah, I know this and this. And I guess two questions. The restorative justice program, could you kind of just touch on any of the key items on what that means for anybody listening?
Yeah, so restorative justice is a victim-centered approach to education, essentially, with the theory that, again, we're talking about low-level crimes. On low-level crimes, if folks can understand the harm they caused, that is going to be much more likely that they are going to think twice about causing that type of harm again than if me as the DA shakes my finger and slaps them on the wrist. They might not care what I think. They probably do care what others in their community think. So we often have victims or victim representatives that articulate what this meant. To give an example of one of our programs, we have a juvenile gun safety program called Think Through Gun Safety. And that is a restorative justice type program for kids in the community all throughout Larimer County. And they get referred either through our juvenile justice system or through SROs in schools or through the schools. And I sat in on one a couple months ago, and we had kids, their parents, SROs, victim advocates from our office, attorneys from our office, and folks in the community who'd been impacted by gun crimes or gun violence, all having a discussion, sitting in a group. And it was powerful. There were a lot of tears shed in that group, folks hearing those stories, kids hearing from the victims, kids hearing from their parents about how that impacted their families. And that is way more impactful on those kids than, a judge in a black robe sitting on a podium who they've never seen before and know nothing about, giving them a lecture. So those community-centered efforts, those restorative justice efforts, really can go a long way with the right subset of crimes. Now, if we're talking about serious crimes, we don't allow those in. If it's a crime that impacted a specific victim, we always ask that victim what their opinion of that is. And if that victim is opposed to that type of path, that's not a path we're gonna take. But for the right subset of cases, it's very effective. And it's an alternative to those other methods. So when folks are going through that, that generally means that we are diverting that and dismissing the case, and so that they can learn their lessons without the negative repercussions that the criminal justice system often entails.
Right, which from research that I've read as an undergrad, this stuff it's very promising in the fact that it lowers your recidivism rate by a significant amount in the first place. I guess the only other thing, if you could, any high notes on the victim services that are offered by your office?
Yeah, so we have I believe 7 or 8 dedicated victim advocates. They work with every what we call Victim Rights Act case. In Colorado, there's some statutory Victim Rights Act cases. But we also have them work on other things too. For instance, distribution of fentanyl causing death. The state of Colorado does not say that's a Victim Rights Act case. Of course, families have lost a loved one. I mean, to me, and to our office, that is one of the most serious victim cases. So we assign our advocates to those as well, for instance. They work with people from the day we're charged in that case, sometimes before, if we've been in coordination with a law enforcement agency on something serious like a homicide or a sex assault, all the way through the process, through that whole long roadmap I showed back at the beginning. A lot of what they're doing is make sure that victims understand the process. The criminal justice system is opaque, it's confusing. That's one of the reasons I'm out here trying to do this, right? Trying to break down those barriers. Because we want victims to come forward and report crimes, to trust law enforcement, to trust the DA's office, and to do that we have to sort of meet them where they are. So our victim advocates really try to explain what's going on, get input, be that sort of handoff between victims and attorneys, and make sure the victim really feels heard in the process and that their opinions are valued. But they also can support them, point them to resources. A lot of victims say, hey, here's my input, that's all I need, go away. And that's great, we'll leave them alone. But a lot of folks, especially if we're talking about prepping for a trial or going to trial, that is really, really difficult. And so our victim advocates, they'll go up to court with them, they'll sit with them, they'll explain that, they'll help break down that process afterwards, and then they'll point them to other resources in the community. We're of course not a counseling outfit, but there's a lot of great nonprofits in our community that help them, but people don't know about those, and so we also connect to resources.
Amazing, thank you.
I'd like to go back to the public too. Do you have
I
any
just want to
questions?
say thanks for all that you're doing. It sounds really great. I like how we're keeping that flat line going. Everyone's always concerned about crime rate going up with all the growth that's going on in our town and the community and the county. I really like the idea of the dog. That was pretty nice.
Next time I'll bring the dog.
Got
He's more popular
I think
than I
We
am.
love dogs more than any other community in Larimer County, so that dog won't leave here.
Thinking about something like that most people wouldn't even think about, and here it is making a big difference in just something as simple as a dog. And then the idea of like charging the crime the same as $1,000 car for a $30,000 car. Like you said, it's more impactful on the cheaper car, so it should almost be more detrimental to the crime or to the criminal than. But yeah, I'm liking balancing it out, keeping it all level and flat and doing a good job, thanks.
Anything else? I'd like to open it up to the public too, but
Sure.
let me give any questions. Okay. Is there anyone in the audience that would wish to address our district attorney while we have him in here?
Hello.
If you do, you can come to the front. Okay, yeah, bring it back.
What's strange, I heard someone ask me, they're a property owner, they're looking for, they wanted to test their property for meth use. And I said, well, we have lead testing kits. I said, I don't think we have meth. I said, check with the police department or the health department. Is there such a thing that you can test your property for meth?
I would also recommend to check with the health department.
That's what I suggested.
That would be my suggestion. I wouldn't, I'm not certain that's the right answer.
I mean, there's not a home health,
Yeah, but that's how I direct them. We have seen that. It's rare that a house is sort of that gone, but it does happen. We have had properties condemned due to methamphetamine use. We don't see a lot of methamphetamine labs like we used to see 10, 15 years ago. That's sort of a thing of the past. It's pretty rare, but certainly people using houses as sort of what we'd call sort of flop houses, where you might have 10, 12 people living in a house for 6 months and using a lot of methamphetamine. That does happen. I would not want to live in that house afterwards.
No, so I guess the health department's a good answer for it then. So that's why I told her to check with. So, cool.
I just had one question. So we started a teen court, or Chief has been instrumental in this in our clerk's office, but we can send our teens to the Loveland Teen Court now. And you were talking about a teen court program, but that seems not municipal, but a little higher up. Is that the case? Or did I miss?
We don't have a teen court.
What was the one you're talking about? People getting around.
That was a restorative justice
So
program.
that's just a general for any age.
The
teen court we did-
it's geared towards juveniles.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because that's kind of like the one we send ours to in Loveland. I sat in on one with Chief, and it was very much the parents were there and very personal. So this is kind of the same thing.
Yeah, and I've never sat in on the Loveland Teen Court. I know they have that. But yes, it's sort of a similar idea
Yeah.
that we really need to sort of pool resources and treat those crimes in a different way.
It was fantastic. Just like you said, it was. If I was that youth, it was much more meaningful. Embarrassing, and then in the Loveland one, you also had the jury was peers of young kids. So a lot of accountability there. So.
Yeah, and our juvenile filings are down quite a bit because I think COVID partly, but also SROs in schools are now dealing with things in a different way because communities have sort of had evolved expectations about those things, which we support. I think the SROs throughout Larimer County are doing a great job at that. So our filings are down, but we have seen some sort of heightened severity of some of the juvenile crime, like the gun crime and so forth. So that's one of our new focuses because our juvenile folks are busier than ever, even with a much lower caseload because of the increased use of guns and access to guns with youth. So that's one of the things we're trying to push.
Yeah, I had my truck and my trailer stolen on 2 different occasions. So seeing that 16.5 is actually really good information. And I think it's safe to say that per capita crime is going down then.
Yes.
Flatline.
There's of course always a little bit of a rub where our statistics are cases filed with the DA's office.
Mhm.
So those aren't gonna perfectly mirror any law enforcement agency statistics because of course they get crimes reported that they can't solve or they can't find someone, and so those don't come to the DA's office.
Right, okay.
So there is a small disparity there, but the trends are pretty similar. And yes, the trends are, I think most in law enforcement across Larimer County would agree, we're seeing some more sort of acuity on certain serious crimes, gun crimes and some other things like that. However, the general crime rate is very steady.
Wow. Well, thank you. It says a lot about you to come out tonight, and I've been here since 2016. Tim's been here a long time too, but to have you come out in person, I haven't seen that in any interaction with the DA. So, and not just an assistant of you, but you yourself in person. So, thank you.
Right, my goal is to try to get to every council once a year. So it's obviously councils are very busy and everyone's volunteering, and so it's hard, and they have issues where the public's coming until midnight, and so trying to schedule someone else is difficult. So I'm very appreciative of your time. But yeah, my goal is to get everywhere once a year, so I hope to see you guys again next March.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time, sir.
Thanks for your time.
Cheers, thank you.
All right. Next up is a Arbor Day Proclamation by our town forester, Paul Furness. Welcome. annual thing. Is this your first one?
It is.
It's always been,
yes.
yeah, you're a new town forester.
Yep.
Welcome.
Yep, thank
I
you.
just wanna pump you up a bit. I live next to an arborist, and right when Paul got hired, he was just like, you guys did the exact right job with Paul. I guess he's worked with you on some other stuff with the emerald ash borer treatment, but just talked you up for about a good amount of time about your knowledge and your expertise and your interest in the town. So thanks for doing what you do.
And the lumberjack shirt.
It's my nice shirt. Well, thank you, Mayor Karsbeck, and thank you, board, for seeing me. Yes, we do have our 40th annual Arbor Day celebration coming up. Kind of a big number for us, and definitely first year here, but trying to keep this tradition going strong. We are part. Well, this is recognized by the Arbor Day Foundation. We have been recognized for 40 years in a row. That means we have seen 12 growth awards. Growth awards are based off of utilizing certain tools that the organization offers, and 7 of those have been actual consecutive awards. This year we got one too. Anything like regarding like tree canopy surveying or introducing new programs, new funding sources, stuff like that. So it's really cool. I'm gonna keep that going. I think it's an excellent toolbox rather than just jumping through hoops. Just some background, the Tree City requirements is having an established tree committee or board, having a $2 per capita budget for forestry, an annual Arbor Day observance and proclamation, and a tree care ordinance. So as a town, we obviously meet that, and definitely keeping that going strong. We have, I don't know how long we've been doing it, but I'm gonna keep this going. We're gonna raffle off a tree for anybody who wants to show up. I am all for getting the community involved. I'm really hoping to work with our new social media representative to try to really build some hype and, you know, maybe get some more channels of communication with the community out there and really get more community involved. I would just love to see as many people as I can. So we are gonna raffle off a tree to a winner, just a general participant. And then we also have a poster contest that's going out to the elementary schools in town. And that will also hopefully bring in more kids and, you know, get their involvement. So just a little bit about the planting. This year we're gonna do a Prunus patis or a bird cherry. We're gonna do a tree at Fickle Park, kind of the northeast section, kind of nearby the new bathroom that went in. I think it'll be a good tree. It's a little shady there, so the tree was chosen for that site, and should just be a nice flowering tree in May. They're closely related to choke cherries, so hopefully we'll see some cherries and, you know, feeding the local fauna of Fickle Park.
The squirrels.
The squirrels, mainly the squirrels.
Have them eat that instead of the Christmas tree light.
Yes, seriously. So yeah, my recommendation is just definitely accept the proclamation, and we hope to, you know, see anybody there who wants to join us, and yeah, come plant a tree.
Awesome, thank you. So it's gonna call you, your title, Deputy Town Administrator. I always get it wrong, sorry, Jeremy, but you've been around longer than anyone in this room here. How long, this has been going for a long, long time?
This has?
The plannings?
Oh, yeah.
Do you know a time that this might have started, or
Oh, gosh.
has it been the entire time you've been here?
Yeah, it's,
Yeah,
I mean, we started in the back of the high school. I mean, there's
It's just been going forever.
Even at Berthoud Alley, we
Fickle
planted a
Park.
bunch of trees.
down to Hillsdale, Main Street was an Arbor Day. all
I
the
remember
way.
since I was a kid, so yeah, it has been a long, long time. You have great foresters and great tree boards that the whole time, and we've done a lot of things even before we've been on, and then this current board that just, it hasn't been done in the area, like treating all of the emerald ash borer, even on some of the town-owned right-of-ways, just because we want to generally protect those trees, and so, thank you for what you do.
Yeah.
Any questions before I read the proclamation? Trustee Murphy's been great too. Thank you for bringing all their questions forward and
All credits to Paul and.
getting a budget for them, and awesome. One year, it was just my mom was the only member of the audience, so it was awkward, but she got that crabapple tree, so hopefully we'll get more this year, so. All right, I'll go ahead and read this. This is the Arbor Day Proclamation for 2022. Whereas in 1872, J. Sterling Morton proposed to the Nebraska Board of Agriculture that a special day be set aside for the planting of trees. And this holiday, called Arbor Day, was first observed with the planting of more than 1 million trees in Nebraska. and Arbor Day is now observed throughout the United States and the world, and trees can reduce the erosion of our precious topsoil by wind and water, cut heating and cooling costs, moderate the temperature, clean the air, produce life-giving oxygen, and provide habitat for wildlife. And trees are a renewable resource giving us paper, wood for our homes, fuel for our fires, and countless other wood products. And trees in our town increase property values, enhance the economic vitality of business areas, and beautify our community. And trees, wherever they are planted, are a source of joy and spiritual renewal. And the rest of this is for April 29th, so I won't read that part today, right, Claire? I'll read it today, but I'm not gonna sign it. I, William Karstick, Mayor of the Town of Berthoud, do hereby proclaim Saturday, April 29th, 2023 as Arbor Day. All right, thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Our final regular agenda item tonight is the sale of the Old Town Hall, and this will be an introduction by Economic Development Director Walt Elish.
Thank you, Mayor, trustees.
Welcome.
Pleasure being in front of you, this exciting catalyst project potentially for downtown and Berthoud in general. Since last summer, I think it was, when we met in executive session to talk about this project, the development of that site, Chris and I have been meeting with Mike Schrotland, in drafting a development agreement, going back and forth. And while we were doing that, we decided to research the state statutes regarding the sale of publicly owned land. And what we discovered was the statutes outline the procedure for selling land that's publicly held or used for public purposes. And after looking at that statute, reviewing that statute, we feel because that site has not been used for public purposes since we moved out in 2016. And as I understand it, since we're trying to redevelop that site for mixed-use purposes, there's no intention of continuing using that site for public purposes. All you all need to do, assuming you want to do this, is pass, not tonight, this draft ordinance in your packet, which allows you to proceed forward with selling that property down the road. So what's in front of you is a draft ordinance. That ordinance really provides more of the detail of how we got to this point. And what we're asking you to do, we're just introducing this tonight. And then at your next meeting, you set a public hearing, and hopefully with the consideration that you will pass this ordinance at your next board meeting, which is March 28th, 2023. So that's where we are in the process. You all hopefully will do that. You need to do that in order for us to progress to the next phase in terms of our negotiation with Mike. So this is not, Ordinance 1317 is not authorizing you to sell the property. It's allowing you to put you in a position to sell the property. So there'll be a second ordinance down the road if we decide that property, if you all decide to sell that property to a private developer.
Mm-hmm. And tonight, we're not passing that, even that, this is just the draft.
Correct.
Right, thank you for putting that up, Claire.
Yep.
My only question, I just wanted to make a clarification, when Mayor Pro Tem and I were going through the meeting last week on the agenda, is that it's being used by public for not government purposes. And that was Chris's, Administrator Kirk's clarification is that, well, yeah, it's being used by Raft, but that's not public as in government.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
correct. Yep. Mhm.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, that's kind of where I was at, like, what's the term of public use? So.
Yeah, I guess it's saying, it is kind of a weird thing where we've turned it over to private use at a discount cost for them, but it's been working out well for them.
You know, up until Raft, the whole building was leased out to private, small businesses.
Yeah.
And as you all know that, and it's because of, we thought we were gonna be a little farther along than we are right now. That space when Tax Credit Connections moved out, where Raft is now, I just decided to not really pursue finding another tenant for that space. And then when Raft approached Chris, and they were looking for space, we thought, makes sense for them.
And like town use out there is storing the BATS bus, that's it.
If it makes people feel better too, Raft, once the Life Center goes through, we'll have an office there, so they're kind of
Yes.
pushing to get that done so they have a place to transfer to.
Yes, yep.
That makes sense. If you're looking at, I guess, in a legal sense, they're asking, the state's saying you need to declare because this was public funds that created it, that there's no more public use for it?
Yeah, so just under state law, you want to just declare that it's not under that's not being used for governmental purposes anymore. And that way you can sell it.
That's,
Any questions? Sorry, I kind of jumped in there, but I wanted to make
No,
that clarification,
okay.
because
Just a little hurdle that kind of popped up in this
Yeah.
whole process.
Yeah.
and I appreciate you guys working through that too. Chris's face was red when we initially learned this, we're like, oh, this is, but no, it's just a good, I don't even call it a workaround, I think it just makes sense, so.
yeah, it's because it's not being used for public purposes, and there's no intent, as I understand it, for the town, the board, to continue to use that for
Right.
public purposes.
We're not gonna move back there for town hall.
No, good. That is good to hear. Thank you, Mayor.
Your nightmares, yeah.
I'll second that.
Oh, cool. Any questions or comments? This is just the presentation, kind of the overview tonight.
This will be on your agenda at the next board meeting. Hope you'll agree to that.
Sounds good. Sounds like we agree. Okay.
Thank you.
No, no need.
No motion, it's just they're bringing it up so that they can introduce it officially, yeah.
We're gonna give you time to look at the ordinance too, though, because we don't wanna just.
Yeah,
put something
right.
in your lap.
Makes sense. We've seen it. Makes sense. Cool. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rick. Well, that concludes our regular meeting tonight. We're gonna do reports.
Or did you wanna do reports before the executive?
Yeah. We're gonna do reports and then we're gonna jump into executive session because we're not gonna take any action tonight on executive session. So we'll start out with trustee Tim Hardy.
What have I got? Well, I was gone for a week, so missed out. I just wanted to point out something. I did watch our old town board meeting just to kind of see what I missed. And I wanted to make a comment about what I observed from the viewers aspect. And that is paper shuffling. You can really hear that a lot more so than you can hear some of our voices.
Yeah.
So just wanted to bring up, watching paper shuffling on the desk. It's amazing how well the mics are picking that up.
Bad.
But it's not picking up our voices, and I'm probably the worst culprit of that too, because it's kind of soft-spoken.
Good points.
And then HPAC meeting last night went really well. Well, I don't know about well, we didn't have a quorum. So, which brings up the point that we now have 2 empty seats on our board. So if there's anybody interested in historic preservation and working with old homes in town and now farms, because we're gonna be looking at some of that, and old business buildings, to definitely get on our town website or contact Christian. He can direct you to the application process for that. And hopefully that'll also be put on the Facebook pages as well. So Ann said she was gonna take care of that part. So, but and then no other news from Main Street program, nothing there that I can report on.
Who's the staff liaison right now
What's that?
for HPAC?
Me.
Staff liaison.
Oh, staff?
And you're gonna be on that?
And Brian.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I know
And then-
Brian was doing it for a while.
And then they're gonna battle royal it out to see who gets it. And
Or who doesn't
unless-
get it, yeah.
Unless Ann hires somebody new, and then, she gets that responsibility. It's not been settled yet, it's to be determined.
Cool.
Let's see, anything else? I think that is all I've got.
Okay, thank you. Trustee Murphy.
I don't have much tonight aside from what Paul stated with the tree committee. We're gearing up for Arbor Day and I hope to see you all there. So
All right.
I'm really excited for it.
It's gonna be fun. Trustee Butler.
I just want to comment that I really enjoyed the tour of Ursa Major today that some of us made.
Missed it.
Really neat facility and really cool things that they do out there.
Was it a blast?
See it, but it was. Then a couple questions, I guess, for staff, if you're aware of updates on some of the projects like the parks, trails. So do we have bidding back on pickleball courts, the bicycle park, the status of that? Tractors left, and I'm wondering if they're going to come back sometime soon. I assume so. Town park. I'm just curious on the updates of those projects.
Yeah, I can answer them now. They're actually, 2 of the 3 were in my report, so either way, I can do them now if you want.
It's up to you.
Yeah, I can do them now. That's okay. Yeah, so the update on the bike park, we met yesterday, March 27th, which is in 2 weeks. They'll start moving dirt on the bike park. They finished all the utilities, the entry road last month. all that underground stuff, infrastructure things. They'll start moving dirt on the 27th, and it'll be about a 2-month build for mid-June, 1st of June, if weather operates. But they'll start moving dirt for the track on at the end of this month. For the bike
Maybe a
park.
birthday day opening? So maybe a birthday day opening?
Possibly,
Sweet, be fun.
if all goes well.
Yeah.
Um,
So starting at this month for,
Yeah, at the end of the month, 27th we'll be out here. There's 3 or 4 crews, cause they're specialized. You guys, as you guys know, that there's an asphalt track, there's cross-country tracks, dual slalom tracks, and there's amenities, side amenities, boulders, ramps they put together, So they'll mobilize about 2 or 3 crews, and they'll all work together on their own specialty, but it'll come together up over 2 months, but they'll start on the 27th of this month. Pickleball bid closes in 2 weeks, at the end of the month on the 30th of this month. We'll review those. My hope is to, hopefully it's within budget, put those together and we'll bring those back for award, and discussion for you guys in the first, hopefully the hope is to turn around the first meeting in April, the pickleball, and we're ready to go for that. Town Park, we're still working through a little bit. We have 100% CDs done. We had some revisions that we had to send back to the consultants. We've been waiting the last 3 or 4 weeks for those to come back.
what's a CD?
Construction documents. You did approve that to go to bid. We just had some small alterations that we need to fix with the playground and things like that. And then we're gonna send that out to bid, hopefully in the next week and a half. That'll be a bid, probably about a 30-day bid. So, that was the 3, right?
So by the April, first or second week in April, we'll have all these underway in some state. Bids are back, out, or started.
Right. Okay. Or on the schedule to commit to construction. Yep, all 3 of these.
I have one additional, the bike striping project approved for multiple locations throughout town. Where are we at on getting that done?
That's under keys. I think that come in consent last meeting.
We did,
It was a while back.
yeah,
Yes.
for bidding, right?
Obviously, weather is,
So that's on the street. It's out to bid right now. You guys approved that in last consent to go to bid.
Go to bid, yeah.
So it's typically probably 3 to 4 weeks. And he'll bring that probably back at the end of April, 1st of May, the bike striping plan.
And then we could possibly, or hopefully get started
Yep.
this summer. Okay.
Yep.
How about regional trail, connecting the regional trail up through Heron Lakes? Any updates?
To like the front, oh, you mean from Bertha Parkway
Bertha
to,
Parkway?
Yes.
so that was waiting on the EPA or something?
Yeah, the last I heard was just the final touches with CDOT and
CDOT's environmental.
Mike, or they're environmentalists. That was any minute or any day a week or 2 ago. So after that, everything was in order to continue to the next steps.
So that'll get the Bertha Parkway Trail, the one by the rec center, up and over to Hammond Development
Yep.
and then to the golf course.
Yep.
Do we know, I'm going past your original question, but to North Front Range, to the Front Range Trail? I know you gave a presentation on that over a year ago. Are we plans to connect into that, or we're still working with Loveland on that, right?
Yeah, we're still working with Loveland. They had some legal issues with some eagles nests and things, and they're trying to consider a different route.
Okay.
But I think within their different routes, they're still gonna come down to where they initially told us to connect.
Okay.
Right out of TPC, I don't know the road there.
Yeah.
On the north side to 14.
Kind of at that Malchuk property, I
Yep.
think.
So they're gonna get to that connection just a different way, we think? But still come through Berthoud over 14 in the same area?
Right. Yep.
Okay. I was just curious of all these
No, it's great.
amenities we have coming. It's exciting. It's gonna be a big year to,
I mean, we got a question on that just today at Ursa Major, so you answered that, thanks.
I can't wait to see all this come together. Okay, that's all.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Youth Advisory is underway to plan Scorch Fest 2, Electric Boogaloo, not the official name yet.
Love that.
I just came up with it. No, they're on the way planning it. They are also in need of anybody else who wants to be a part of the commission. So essentially anybody who's age 13 to 18 who needs community hours or wants to be part of the community. So anybody can sign up for it and they'll likely get just interviewed and pulled in because they need some extra help. Otherwise, that's kind of it for my report.
All
Youth
right.
Advisor is working on Scorch Fest too.
Awesome, that's really exciting. Is that in August, July?
They're trying to go July 9th and 10th. Sorry, June 9th and 10th.
June 9th and 10th, so right
Yeah.
after birthday day, okay. Well,
Correct.
awesome, well, that was fun last year, thanks. My only reports were, there's major, thank you, Ann, too, for organizing that. It's such an incredible, that company is growing so rapidly. And I talked to, the last time I was there, the COO, their final build up, they wanna have 1,000 employees out at that site, so it's huge representation for Berthoud and such a cool sector that we're lucky to have here. And it sounded like they had some infrastructure stuff, and you jumped in there and said we can help you out and hopefully at least get a meeting together on get more water up there. I sent out an email, and unfortunately it was today, she did email me last week about this, but Lynette Keene puts on every year this summer in the park, and she wanted to put a sign overneath Main Street. And the town's policy is that it has to be a town-sponsored event. I don't know, we don't need to give them any money, because she said the business is already involved. I don't know if you guys have been to it, I went to one last year.
This is something I actually asked Chris Kirk about last year, because she's only allowed to keep her banner up for 2 weeks, while the farmer's market, which isn't a town-sponsored event, from my understanding.
Well, now it
was
will be.
able to- Now it is.
Yeah. So there's gotta be a way we can organize the signs.
Because it's in Fickle Park on town property, that she should be able to keep her banner up longer, hopefully.
That would be great, but I guess a town employee told her, no, you specifically need to get sponsored this year, so, which they're doing their job. So I guess, is there anything special we need to do besides just say we sponsor it? We're not giving them any money, if the board wanted to.
I had a question regarding
Yeah.
that. I think it's a good idea. My concern is from a free speech perspective, if we're sponsoring like a movie event, are there concerns from a legal perspective of what's showing, that could be construed as, the town choosing speech?
So we kind
Put you
of
on the
looked into, we looked into a few of this free speech questions just in regards to the town taking over the farmer's market. So I can just get it, so it's free speech questions, it really is case by case, a lot of the times, and there's a lot of facts that go into it. So yeah, if we wanna talk through a couple specific scenarios offline or something, I'm happy to do that and kind of just analyze those through, cause we did that for the town earlier. I thought it was really helpful, so.
What if we had Lynette come with just a list of her movies? Last year, they're all family-related Disney movies.
Sure.
And that way, if you have any questions about what
PG.
we'd be sponsoring.
Well, I guess my concern is the town taking a position on something as selective, as that, I guess. From a legal standpoint, I personally don't have concerns. It's more what the town is supporting, I guess. And this seems like a very specific scenario, I guess. That
Yeah.
makes sense.
Well, I think her biggest concern is that she wants to be able to keep that banner up during the entire program of the weeks that she's showing a movie. And I remember talking to her about it because I was a sponsor of it as well last year. And I asked Chris about it, saying, hey, this is an event that's in Town Park, in Fickle Park, it's a town-owned property. Even though you're not a sponsor of it, can we somehow facilitate the exception that this is being rented through the town through a permit process? And can they keep their promotion up for that event like the farmer's market did for the entire time that they're operating it?
And there could be some questions as we have more events that are sponsored or owned by the town of clutter and who gets what spot. So it sounds like we're not ready yet. Do we wanna bring her in, or?
I think it's worth asking some questions, at least on the legal end of this specific scenario. And maybe just generally, can our, code be a little more open-minded about what we're allowing or not allowing? I think it's just worth asking questions. I certainly support her coming in, giving her case of what she needs and
Okay.
stuff.
That work?
So those are my thoughts on it, I guess. If then clear as mud.
So is this more of a?
Well, I kinda see where you're coming. I think
You get what I'm
it's a
saying.
good thing, but I think as we grow, we need to have kind of a stance on what we sponsor, is that what you're saying, what we don't? Cause I mean, we do stuff for Grace Place too that hangs over, I mean, so
Sure.
it's a church.
I guess what I'm getting at is, you know, if we get into these individual scenarios, and I think it would be helpful for the board and the town in general to operate from some basic guidelines on how we're operating with these private entities, so that.
Do we
we're
have any
operating-
policy on who we sponsor or how?
We have some written in the permit, that's what staff was trying to convey to her,
Okay,
and to everyone.
Yeah.
That asks. I don't know if it was quite clear, but yeah, there's some, we've been going over this over the several years, and what, to speak what trustee Murphy's saying is, there's entities that come and go and events that come and go that continue to ask. So there's some definement in the permit, whether or not we change that or re-clarify it, that we can do that as well, but there's some minimal stuff in there.
do you know if she or
addresses it.
that group applied, if Lynette's Realtor Group applied for a permit yet?
I would assume so. I did see her email, and she did reference Steve, who is
Yeah.
in charge of that as a staff. So if she had a conversation with him,
should
I
probably-
assume.
Okay, well, I didn't do my job, I didn't do enough research with her, but yeah, I'll see if she can at least give us some more information and show up, makes sense. That might be another filter, is that you gotta show up and make a case.
I think that would be a big part of it.
Yeah.
I think, you know, just in my limited time on the board, I've struggled with the idea of maintaining equity with all these organizations, in a way that seems fair for everyone. Obviously, you know, we wanna go out and support our
Yeah,
community
don't
in
wanna
a
exclude-
variety of ways,
right.
you know? It's just, I'm asking the question, I guess, can we be more fair and equitable about it in a way that makes sense? So when people come before us, there's some kind of guideline to it, you know?
Sure, okay. Well, I'll just copy you guys on an email to her and see if she has any further response and if she wants to come in.
Sure.
Okay, that work?
I agree with that, cause I wholeheartedly support trustee Murphy's comments to be equitable, as well as I think we need to just think through this process, to make it more consistent. Cause I'm thinking through some examples, we had a previous movie, you know, sponsor years ago, that I don't know if the town wanted to align with those individuals.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I can see it like, you know, legal challenges, if you guys know what I'm referring to. So if we're gonna partner from a town perspective to sponsor certain events
Yeah.
associated with, you know, other organizations, whether they're, you know, businesses or individuals, we just need to think through how we scrub that, you know, or screen that process.
Yeah. I think it makes sense. Okay, cool. I feel like I had something else, but I don't. Okay, then staff, turn over for any reports.
Just a couple more. It was in the consent agenda tonight. Just to review real quick, the July 3rd event is Monday this year. Similar event that has been, it's at Wagner Park again. Similar food trucks, similar events, changing out the music. It'll be a different performer this year, which we'll strive to continue to change that unless we really get sold on one that does variety. But other than that, it's 5 to 10 on that Monday, July 3rd. So I just wanted to let you know that again. The flower pots for Main Street have been ordered. We did go through a little bit of a challenge with that last year. I'm told they're big and bolder and more colorful this year. That's our anticipation. Out the 1st of May, we do have some staff on our staff that have backgrounds and degrees in horticulture. So they're gonna be overseeing some of that stuff and making that more presentable along Main Street. I know some people were a little bit dissatisfied with last year's, and that's okay. But this year's gonna be a little bit different, a little more colorful, so I wanted to suggest that tonight.
That's awesome.
The sidewalk master plan, just letting you know, the 5-year master plan will coming April, if you're looking out for that. And then just a reminder, work session next Tuesday about water coming up.
Thank you. That's great.
Exciting. Annual committee reports we've discussed, we're preparing those with the different communities. We're looking at a future date here in the next couple of weeks, have those folks come, maybe at the next work session if we schedule that. But hopefully the next 2 or 3 weeks, they'll be ready to come and tell you all the good things they've been doing.
Would the work study session on water next week be good information for planning commissioners to participate in?
Yeah, I think we should extend that to them if they wanted to
uncertain.
We're facing a lot, we're getting hammered with water questions, which are valid by the community.
Commission members could certainly attend if they wish to. If it's going to be a joint work session, we would need to advertise that differently, but it would be perfectly fine if
Could
we
we just
wanted
invite them
to.
as citizens?
Well, they can come as citizens no matter what, but I think we should make it joint, make them feel a little more.
Either way would be fine.
Would you guys be okay with that?
I think it's a good idea.
I think it'd be a good idea for them to be aware of what our water situation is.
So we advertise it as a joint meeting. If Chair Dowker, it's kind of a short turnaround for her. I mean, I guess not mandatory, but optional attendance, because it is short notice, but
We can offer pizza.
yeah.
We can certainly invite the planning
Yeah.
commission. Is the intent to have it be a joint work session?
You would, I think that's the intent, or have them more included than just the audience. I don't know how we could do that, but they could ask questions just like we do whenever they want. Because they're gonna have to face these developer questions, just like we are.
Okay.
Is that clear?
That's clear.
Is it attainable
Clear as
within the
water.
amount of time that we have? I guess is the question. If we say we wanna make this more of like a joint meeting, is there enough time for that?
There's
For-
certainly enough time to notice it. I think a lot of that will depend upon the individual availability for the planning commission members, since that does fall outside of the
Yeah.
regular meeting.
Yeah, it's not like a mandatory thing, it's just, if you happen to be available, we'd love to have you come, because I know, and I wanna shout out for Tim, because he's brought this up, and we had some questions from planning commissioners not feeling like they had enough information, so this is a good start. And trustee Hardy had a good other suggestion, our CML attendance is kind of low by the trustees this year, and we might have some available funds. So if the board was interested, maybe we could extend CML opportunities to any planning commissioners, so they could attend. I don't know how you guys feel about that, but I thought it was a good idea.
If we don't use it, then yeah, absolutely. Might as well get used somewhere else.
So we wanna, does that work, or I guess I can clear that with Chris too, but it kind of makes sense. Okay, I'll clear it with Chris, but I like that idea, I think that was good. Well, that's it, that concludes, council, sorry.
No report today.
Okay, well, thanks for your help tonight. Fielded some questions on the spot pretty well, so thank you. Okay, that concludes our regular meeting tonight. We won't take action in executive session, this is just a routine review of our town administrator and annual review. Would anyone like to move us into executive session?
I move to enter into executive session pursuant to Colorado Revised Statute, section 24-6402, subpart 4F, for discussion of a personal matter and not involving any specific employees who have requested discussion of the matter in open session, any member of this body, of any elected official, the appointment of any person to fill an office of this body or of an elected official, or personal policies that do not require the discussion of matters personal to particular employees. Following details are provided, town administrator annual eval.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem has moved on this, is there a second? I'll second. Trustee Hardy seconded, clerk, may we have a roll call vote, please?
Trustee Murphy,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Grace.
Yes.
Trustee Butler,
Yes.
Trustee Hardy,
Yes.
Mayor Parsbeck.
Yes. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
We can